Welcome back, or welcome to our Everyday Leadership series. And we have a real treat for you today. I've got Craig Hempsted on the line, who is a dancer, teacher, choreographer, director, just an amazing energy soul. And I've actually had the pleasure of taking class with this fine man. So he's agreed to talk to us today and share where he's at and his view on this Everyday Leadership series. And so we're so pleased to have you, Craig. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. So tell me, obviously we can't escape the context of, COVID-19 and where people are at in the world right now. So how are you looking at life these days, or kind of what's up for you?
Well, I think I'm feeling like we're all in the same boat. I think as tragic and as horrible and as disruptive as this is, what it's doing is putting us all in the same skin for a second, which I don't think can be a bad thing in the long run. I mean, I'm completely chagrined that it's taken something this horrible and life-threatening as a global pandemic to make us think that we are on common ground and equal footing, which is kind of a miraculous thing. But I'm just like I said, I'm so disappointed that it took something like this to bring us to this point. I know that, and the nature of the human condition is that we're going to go back to the bad behaviors that we had the minute this clears up, and I'm pretty optimistic that it will. But for now, I'm endeavoring, because that's how we roll.
Yeah.
We're going to litter and we're going to pollute the skies over Los Angeles again, and we're going to go back to plastic bags, whatever it's going to be. But I'm just endeavoring to sort of index and inventory the things that I can take from this time and see if I can't apply that to my life in the future or the aftermath of this. That's what I'm thinking about.
Awesome. It's interesting because I just heard someone today say something similar around the collective nature of all of us experience. Like, this is on everybody's minds right now, and for good or for bad, and in various degrees of worry, of course. But that you're looking for some measure of connectedness in this. I think that's interesting. That's interesting for sure. So when you say you're looking for the pieces that you can kind of hang on to going out of this, what are they in your mind?
Well, I'm finding that with all this additional alone time, I'm in the house with people, but I was pretty bad at introspection. I didn't do a lot of self-analysis or a lot of inward thinking. It happens, but I didn't deliberately spend any time doing that. And I found that now that I have the time and we're in this very serious situation, I endeavor to filter out all the shit that we're being inundated with from the different camps and the political camps, and just to see what it is and how I feel about it. And I've been asking really sort of like universal things of myself, like, I want to live in a world where I have to witness everyone around me succumb to this horrible disease. Like, are they telling us everything? Am I getting all the information? Is it worse than they're telling us? Is it going to be like Armageddon? Is it the end of the world? And I'm just thinking, I wish I had more information so I could make a really educated decision. I actually joked the other day with Alfredo that I might just head down to Hastings in Maine and get a dirty needle and call it a day, because I don't think I have the fortitude to watch the people that I love wither. Like, I don't think I can be there for that. And if it's the coward's way out, then so be it. But I think I know myself well enough now with the introspection that I've done to know that I don't know if I want to be here for the long haul and all of that. I don't know. It's something that I'm not contemplating suicide, mind you. I'm just like, wow, you better dig in and find something else.
Interesting. So I heard it the other day on a podcast. The person framed it as, this is our challenge of the day, as it were. Like, it's testing our character. And I certainly feel that way about it. Sounds like you're feeling a little bit about it like that. Like, really, what would it take for me to be with people who I love, who are struggling? And I don't know if you mean succumb to as in it's the mental game of it, or it's actually physically being ill that's most worrisome to you. Okay.
Like, I know that I have the fortitude to survive whatever this throws at me. If I have to stay in this room for the next 6 months, I can do that. I'm fine with my own company, but I happen to live with people who are very savvy about preparation. A big freezer just arrived yesterday. Like, and they're playing
Nice.
very much the safer than sorrier game, and I'm very happy that I'm in their orbit.
Nice.
I also joked that I have friends who are borderline survivalists in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna steal a horse and come down there because I mean, I know you've got the weapons and the barbed wire and the
Yeah,
food.
yeah.
I know there's half a cow in your freezer, and I know that you grow everything organically. I'm coming down.
All I
And
gotta do is get there.
I just gotta steal a horse and get there. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the backup plan is is
Little
Arkansas.
Rock,
I got it.
Arkansas. For now, I'm super happy to just wait this out, whatever it is. And I'm very, very serious about adhering to the rules that are in place right now about the self-distancing, the quarantining.
Yeah.
I go out maybe once a week and I'm masked up and Lysoled and the whole shebang. And I'm pretty aware of all of that interaction. And because so far with this isolation, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
For
I
sure.
want to continue to be fine. And I don't, and you know, God forbid, after 14 days, I think if I was symptomatic, it would show up. But what if it didn't? Who knows? No one knows really what
Yeah.
the bottom line of this whole thing is. So I'm treating myself like I treated myself in the early 80s. I came to my sexual maturation when there was another little plague killing my friends. And
Yes.
so when you're
Yes.
coming to, you know, the cusp of your sexual peak as an 18-year-old man or something, and you're told, if you screw the wrong person, your arm's going to fall off. You're going to drop dead. And I lived through
Yeah.
that. 55-year-old male, not wood. I lived through that one because I was smart and
Right.
because I self-love to go, you know what? He's cute, but it's not worth it. Or
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really want to go to the liquor store and get another bottle of Chardonnay. Is that worth it today? No. So I'm used to self-sacrifice when it comes to denying my urges for the greater good. And that's something that is hardwired in me, which I think is a great advantage.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Well, it
Okay.
was life-threatening then, and it's life-threatening
Sure.
now, you
For
know, and
sure.
for reals.
Yeah.
But this one, who knows what the hell's going on? So I'm taking the precautions, and I think that everyone should. It's
Yeah.
no skin off your ass and when I read about people who are ignoring the protocols,
Yes.
I take that personally. Like, stop trying to kill me, asshole. That's how I feel about that. You're trying to
Got
kill
it.
me. So
Okay.
I get a little
Okay.
uptight.
All right. Do not break the rules. Craig says so. Okay.
Well, for this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. For other things, maybe not. Okay, good. So
All
let's
right.
talk. So thank you for sharing your perspective on where you're at. Let's talk a little bit more globally. You mentioned that you're in a bit of a transition in life and in general. So tell me a bit more about that.
Well, it's an inevitable transition that every dancer faces. It's so consuming, dance. I don't know if I can explain this to someone who is not embedded in it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost culty. It's almost culty if you think about it. You attend classes. It's very ritualistic. You are there. You listen to leadership blindly. They tell you what to do and you do it.
Yeah.
And it's because you love it. And there is almost a religious fervor to it,
For
in that,
sure.
you know, you're attracted to these acolytes, yeah, or these shining examples, and you want to be better all the time. And it does take over. It's spiritually connected. It's very
Mm.
physical, and it's emotionally involved as well because there's a lot of storytelling and acting. So it's a whole being kind of pursuit.
Mm.
And the thing is, when you live your life like that, like I started relatively late. I was about 15 years old, but then I found it, and it was like a
Yeah.
switch
Yeah.
clicked, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I was so cool that, like, in my skin, that, oh, I'm good at something. I found something I'm good at, and people will
Nice.
reward me for this, and I'm getting the right kind of attention for all of this, and it was
Mm.
amazing. Now I'm 55 years old. I've been dancing my guts out for about 40 years. And I wasn't sedate about it. I treated my body like it owed me money. Like I beat it. And I was just like, no prisoners. You know, I had the best examples and the best training and an incredible career. And now I'm on the downslope of that for sure, in that I'm doing a lot of TV gigs and things that aren't very physically demanding. And I teach here and there, which I really enjoy. But for the most part, I don't want to ride this out into my 60s and 70s because the body deteriorates, and I don't want the surgeries, and I don't want the fusions and the replacements and the
Mm.
things. I want to enjoy
Mm.
being in my body for as long as I can, and maybe taking a step back from dance is the way to do that for me, you know?
Mm. Interesting. Interesting. And yet it's really interesting the way you describe the physical and the spiritual aspects of dance. It's almost like, you know, you'd have to find a way to replace that in some way, because if it's been that integrated into who you are for as long as it has been, I can imagine that would be tough.
Well, I think that if you are inherently a performer or a storyteller or, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of reserved
Yeah.
extrovert for the stage, that all of that creativity is going to manifest in one way or another, whether you
Yeah.
like it or not. Like, so
Yeah.
as I used to dance all day long and that was what consumed me. But as I've stepped away from it in the last 15 years, I'm sort of weaning myself off of it. I've explored painting. I've
Ah,
become a master crochet artist. I have a business where I'm circulating hats globally to anyone
wow.
that wants. And like, so the painting, the writing, the choreography is less demanding because it's a bit more esoteric and intellectual, that you don't
Yes.
necessarily have to do the switch splits or the 5 pirouettes or whatever. You can just point and say, you do it, if it's, you know, appropriate. And so that's a lot
And you
easier.
are
And
a
I've sort of,
taskmaster. I've
I
seen this
am,
in a class.
but I've always taught by example, and I've always said to my
Yeah.
cast and the people that I surround myself with, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. I
Right.
mean, years ago during Expo, we did this crazy thing. We were hanging 100 feet off of the Plaza of Nations, and I was not good with heights, but I was like, oh shit, now I have to put my money where my mouth is, and I did it. I went up in a harness, and I'm 100 feet off the ground, and it was spectacular. So now I'm over this. It was great, but I've always lived by, I will show you once at this age. Don't ask me to do it again. I got one
Right.
good one in me. Don't make me do it. And so I sort of jokingly qualify. Listen, pay attention. You know. But
Yeah,
at least my body is forgiving enough that I can give you that one example if necessary.
It is amazing. It is amazing. That's very cool. Okay, so it sounds like you've got lots of different ways in which you've been experimenting with how to express yourself or how to get that creativity out.
Yeah.
So what are you relying on to kind of help you through this transition? Like, what do you know about yourself that you've brought to difficult situations in the past that you will
Well,
likely
I
apply?
think it's primarily just about acceptance and getting out of the self-denial loop.
Mm,
And I'm pretty honest with myself in that I'm like, okay, you're not 20. You're never going to be 20 again. But what I
yeah.
do bring to the table is this. What I may lack in physical pyrotechnic sheer exuberance, I have now the
Mm,
wherewithal to nuance and give it subtlety and musicality and style and all of those things. And so that's a whole other avenue of exploration when you're not relying on the gymnastic sensational. You tend to rely more on a little bit about your essence and your mood and your history and your everything that you've learned by example is filtered through you and then projected. And that's just as exciting as
yeah.
getting, you know, the battement behind your head, for me anyway. Exploring those different but parallel avenues are what I find exciting right now. So I'm
Very
not really
cool.
disappointed that I'm not, you know, cracking legs, at which I still am cracking leg, but
Yes,
I
you
know that
are. Yeah.
my jump isn't where it used to be. My I've scratched gymnastics off my resume completely. It's just too injurious to the wrists and the ankles and the back and everything. So it's like, did you tumble? My hand stays down. You're like, I'm not volunteering that stuff anymore. No, thank you. Used to, no, yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
knowing now how to edit myself for longevity and self-preservation.
Nice, nice. And I hear that loud and clear. Like, so there's an acceptance there, and
Sure.
there's a willingness to appreciate that the essence of who you are carries other impacts, right? Other ways in which you can create impact around you.
Well, I think it's a dignified way to behave. Like, I won't cite any examples, but there are just people who are not coming to terms with the fact that they're aging or that their
Yeah.
bodies change over time or something like that. And they, you know, they try to make improvements, which become just a badge for, I am terrified about losing my youthful exuberance. Honey,
I know.
don't worry about it. If you're
Okay.
not good with what's in, you're not good with what's out. That's all I figure, you know.
Okay. Well, where did that come from? Where did that?
I don't really know. There was over time. I mean, again, this crazy
Because
business
dance
allows
can
you.
be a very superficial world, like right, like the aesthetic
Oh,
and the
it
look of
can be.
bodies. Like it can be quite.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
having that
God,
kind
there's
of,
such a demand. Like, you've got to be this girl. You've got to be this little tiny little thing. And there's an aesthetic, especially in the ballet world. It's changed, but in in the ballet world initially, George Balanchine was horrible for creating that stick baby ballerina. The Suzanne Farrells, the Gelsey Kirklands. It's like, I want to see ribs, Gelsey. They had to be so spare and almost asexual. They were no longer women. They were just these vessels for technique. Not that those two women are incredible artists as well, but it has changed. We've got Misty Copeland, who's this woman, this muscular, voluptuous, lush, beautiful athlete. And this has set a benchmark for women to go, okay, I don't look like her, but I look like that. It's well within my grasp to be that person. And so it's so evolving in the right direction. I mean, I have to admit, I am a purist sometimes, and I see the likes of Sylvie Guillem or these incredible Russian girls, the Vagonova girls. I'm like, that's the way it should be.
It's true.
But then I look around and I'm like, then you get these big girls on the award shows. Like in the day, it used to be these girls who are very, very tight and very, very small. And if you fit the costume, you were successful. But now anyone can dance. And that's what I'm living for. It's a waking up to it. That it doesn't matter about your packaging. It matters about your passion and your expression of that passion. And I'm very happy I lived long enough to see it.
Cool. Very cool. Well, let's go back to early roots in childhood and family setting. And so what if anything,
This is a handful. Let's go. Yeah. Let's ask the question.
I'm a little scared to ask you this. So what, if anything, from those early roots do you see as foundational to who you are today?
Okay. So my childhood, not typical. And a little background in, like, we were joking about this before. My father married a woman, had a child. While he was married to that woman, he met my mother, knocked her up with my older brother. Inexplicably, they had me because he left before I was even one. So I don't know what that was all about. Before he'd even impregnated my mother with me, he was already on to the next wife and the next family. And this seemed to be his MO.
Wow.
So he would, and I joke, it's like, he's setting up franchises everywhere. It's just, this game, he was just like, okay, we're opening on this corner and this corner and this corner. And subsequently, I've got some really interesting half siblings. And my mother raised my brother and I solo, which I really respect her for. And they say, in retrospect, when you're a kid, you might be able to assign blame and go, oh, my mother was an irresponsible alcoholic, or my father was very distant or not invested. But the thing is, that's a really easy way to cop out about your own weakness. It was our normal. So I didn't know any better. And for a while, I was like, screw you, when I saw every other person with advantage getting things handed to them. And that never happened for me. But then I went, you know what? I'm not this way in spite of my upbringing. I'm this way because of it. So you can't change where you come from and how it is. You can only change the way you let it affect you and the way you reflect it. So yeah, there was a point at which I was like, damn, if I'd had these advantages, I wonder what my life might have been like. But then I'm like, I really have no particular regrets. So wherein lies the profit of assigning that blame to someone who just was doing her best, frankly, in my opinion. I mean, it was bad. It was very, very bad. My brother and I learned to steal food out of the freezers from neighbors in order to feed ourselves. I was like 8 years old when that shit was going down. It was harsh. And then I've told this story. I don't remember any of our childhood phone numbers. Like, you remember sometimes, when we actually used to remember phone numbers. I don't have any recollection of any of the numbers of our home, but I remember the number of the Legion where my mother drank, the Army and Navy Legion or whatever. It was 92, 1920. And we'd call up and go, it's Craig, is my mom there? And they're, Barbie, one of your kids is on the phone. And just like, are you coming home? There's no food. And I remember having these conversations with my mom while she was at the bar.
Oh my God.
We used to walk ourselves to school and walk ourselves back and never brought a lunch. It was just like it was very meager and very dire at some point. And then for a while, like I said, I was invested in going, damn you, I wonder. And then I went to a really spectacular therapist who said, you're telling me about this thing that happened with your mother and this thing that happened with your father. You're an adult male and you're still harboring all of this assignment of blame. She goes, you're not this way because of that. You're this way because you're being a little asshole. Snap out of it. You're grown, you're fabulous, you have all the tools at your disposal to make a wonderful life. Get out of that past and walk your shit forward. And I was like, I needed to hear that.
That's
because
amazing.
it's easy to get roped into dismissing your
Yeah.
responsibility for your own
Yeah.
shortcomings. And that was the most valuable thing I've ever heard. And so when I talk to people who are doing that, I'm this way because my mother, I'm this way because
Yeah.
my, and I'm like, honey, this is what they said to me. Try this on. And it seemed to help.
So how old were you when you got that message?
This was probably about 15 years ago. Yeah,
Wow.
I was in New York City. I was living in New York, and no, it's a little sooner than that. No, it's probably more like 13 years ago. I was in New York, and I found myself complaining a lot and behaving very alcoholically and being very miserable and very sort of counterproductive to my own well-being. And I was like, I think I need to talk to someone because I'm manifesting all this really stupid behavior. And I found her, and she was just like, now, brass tacks. I'm gonna hold up a little mirror. I'm gonna tell you a little something about yourself. And I was like, wow, that was a good session. But it really, it changed me,
Yeah.
like
I can
organically
hear
and
that.
intrinsically.
Yeah.
It's great.
Interesting. I'm sorry, Craig, it's so rich when you think about that upbringing and how you've gotten to where, like, you built a dance career and you've been all
Mm.
over the globe and you've pushed yourself and been in front of critics and people who adore you. And so what is it that got you through all that, do you think?
Well, I think when I initially started, like I said, okay, the story was when I was in high school, we had a drama department and they were doing Hello Dolly that year. And I was hired to be a galloping waiter. So we had this, fake food strapped to a little tray and we had to do cartwheels and stuff. And I was terrible because I was not athletic. I had never trained in anything, but I knew I was very sort of intrigued by the drama and the theater of it all and the cool people that were involved. So the choreographer, a woman named Ginny Foley, also ran a small dance program in
Okay.
conjunction with the theater program at our high school. It was very sort of artsy, academic, athletic. It was all good. It was a good high school. And she said, listen, if you're going to be an actor or in theater, young man, you need to learn how to move. I'm inviting you to come to the dance classes. And I'm like, okay,
Nice.
I don't know anything. So I went there and it was like, snap, this is where I belong. It was
Yeah.
revelatory. It was like,
Yeah.
I get weepy because it was so concrete. It was so
Yeah.
immediate. This is where I belong, right from the very beginning of the class. And it never has changed. Like, I've always felt that I belong there. And the mere fact that I was rewarded, because
Yeah.
boys, they get a pretty
Yeah.
free ride. It was also immediate. I was
Yeah.
recognized that there's potential. And I was coached by the right people. Kim
Yeah.
Grayland was like, I don't compete my kids. You're going to the Greater Victoria Music Festival. I need Eva Von Gensi, who is the artistic director of Les Ballets Jazz du Montréal, to see you. The minute I was seen, I got a scholarship to the Royal Winnipeg with tuition, with a free ride, with travel, with everything, because they believed in me. After that, I went, and it snowballed from there. But what I loved about it was that it was mine. Mine.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It was portable. I
Yeah.
rode it all over the world. I used dance as a passport, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. But I loved that it was mine.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And it really holds true to sometimes that sentiment that someone sees it in you before you even see it in yourself.
Right.
And then they create that there's like a paved way for you to then step up and into it and make it yours. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I
Awesome.
mean, the trajectory of everything just happened so beautifully for me,
Yeah.
uh, and got me to a point where my skills were more coveted for my choreographic abilities than my dance abilities, but those sort of overlapped. And I said to my producers in Vegas, like, I've got dance years left in me. I know that I'm valuable to you as a choreographer. You may as well put me to work in the own shows that we're producing and creating, so I
Yeah.
can tap that energy out of me and be satisfied. Because I'm getting offers, like, and if you want me to be available to you, employ me in these
I'm just
shows where
saying, you
I
got to
can
lock me
easily reduce
down.
myself, right? Yeah, put a ring on it,
Put
So
a ring on it.
yeah, so but
Beautiful.
they were very great about letting me participate in my own shows and then pulling back to step out to be creative when necessary, and it worked out really well, I think.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So when you think about I mean, you've said a lot already. So, but if I was to put the question, what are you most proud of to you? What is it?
Well, a lot of it, I think, is the idea that coming from very meager circumstances and very little advantage,
Mm,
at least having the wherewithal to recognize that I could play the cards I was dealt
yeah.
and and make a life. Like, who knew? Who knew what road I should have gone down? For
Yeah.
all clues indicate that I should be in jail right now with that kind of upbringing, with zero discipline, with zero supervision. I mean, and I was a bad kid. We were doing all sorts of bad behavior because there was no one looking
No
out
one
for
was
us. But
parenting
I'm
you.
just really
Yeah.
glad that I didn't succumb to the dark side. Like everyone feels the gravity of, oh, let's do that, you know.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
least I had this as an anchor to go, no, I have something to behave appropriately for rather than
Yeah.
behave badly, you know. And that sort of pulled me in the direction that I eventually took,
Yeah.
which is kind of amazing. Dance
Nice.
kind of saved my ass, I guess.
Dance played its role. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So if you were going to put into concise terms some of the major, like if you were to go back and tell your 20-something self, what are the major life lessons? What would they be? What would be the most important, compelling message?
Um, wow. Initially, like when I started dancing and I started getting attention,
Yeah.
I, in retrospect, didn't know that I was also kind of good looking. Like I look at the photos now, when we all look at the photos of
Oh,
ourselves as youth,
sure.
and it's like, oh my God, I was so gorgeous. But now that I'm 55, I look at my, 15-year-old, 20-year-old self, and I'm like, damn, no
Yeah.
wonder people
Yeah.
were, I was oblivious because I had no ego
Uh,
concerning my packaging. I was so invested in dance that I didn't know why are you
wow.
hovering? Why are you sniffing? And so, but now I'm like, oh, I get it. And I made some really sort of bad decisions about who I included in my life. Like they were no good for me. They were
Right.
sidetracking me from things that I mean, I eventually was like, okay, next. But I really allowed people to draw me off my path. And if I
Uh,
could say anything to that young person, like people are going to come and go. These
mm,
guys that are sniffing around you are going to come and go. This is what's going to save your bacon. Maintain this. It's okay to waver in and out of it, but don't stray too far from the path, man. That's what I would tell myself,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And to the young people of today, having been that guy and being this guy that I am today, I tell young people that I teach at Harvard Dance, etc. There are many training programs I'm involved with. And I say when they're whinging, I'm kind of
Mm,
intolerant of people who are 20 and gorgeous and young and flawless
yeah.
whining about, oh, I've
Yeah.
got this or I've got that. And I'm like, sweetie, I've got scar tissue older than you. You're never going to feel better than you do today. You're
Yeah.
20. I would kill you and wear your skin to feel as good as you do today because it gets worse every day. It does not. I mean, a lot of things get better in your life. Dance gets harder and harder and harder. It becomes more
Absolutely.
demanding and more injurious. And you got to stay on top of that stuff because I was at my fighting weight when I was dancing at 150. You could calibrate any scale. I weighed 150, 5'10", 150 pounds, full stop. That was it.
Yeah.
Now I weigh 170 pounds and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't need to be that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not auditioning. I'm not impressing anyone in spandex. I get to be me. And that's what I love right now. My body has changed. I'm accepting it. And I just want to tell those little kids, enjoy it while you got it
Exactly.
because it
The
is
whinging don't,
finite.
yeah, the whinging don't help. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just, oh, so it.
I heard this thing the other day that was like purpose over perfection. Like, what's your purpose with this right now? And just hold on to that and let go of the perfection. Cause like perfect doesn't exist. But it's funny how wisdom, you have to have some trials and tribulations before you actually really take that on board as a lesson, I think, in life.
Well, absolutely. Everyone says that a career in the performing arts in music and dance and theater, etc., is so hard because it's so full of rejection that
Yeah.
you're qualified. I mean, there was a thing, and I still think they do it, the type out. You stand in a line and you're like, no, 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 because they have a preordained idea of who they want. And you're like,
Yes.
I'm not going to take that personally. Sometimes if
Yes.
you don't like the way I play my violin, I put that in a case and it's gone. If you
Yeah.
don't like the way I dance, you don't like me. And so that was hard to deal with. But now I'm like, that's fine, next. And the
Yeah.
thing is, there's not a lot of rejection in this business if you do your homework. I was always trained, a versatile dancer is an employable dancer. Do you tumble? Do you juggle? Do you tap? Do you, whatever it is, the answer is yes. And if you don't know it, you better get it.
So interesting, because that thread of versatility is what you were describing about in Vegas, saying, I want to do the choreo, but I also could be doing the dance. I can do it
Right.
both. Yeah,
Right.
employ me. Yeah, yeah. Because I'm getting offers. The veiled threat.
Right. No, they're calling me.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. So if I just want to go back, because for some listeners, it might be like, I just want to make this really concrete. You said when you first went into that dance and movement class and were invited there, that you really felt like, oh my God, I belong here. And that initial, that last point you made around what it is you would say to your 20-something self is don't waver from the path.
Right.
How would someone know that they're on the right path? Because I sometimes think that in 20-somethings years, there's this burden of potential that they carry, and they struggle to know. They can look back, 10 and 20 years later and go, yeah, that made sense. But looking forward, they struggle because there's so much potential, that a burden of what could I do? I could do anything. I don't know. So what would you say around how they know, or how to stay true to what they know?
I think what you're talking about is this really sort of distorted obligation to your potential, and the fact that you're comparing yourselves to people right beside you physically, in terms of technique and progress, and, and the acuity with which you approach the execution of very difficult athletic things. And so you're constantly comparing yourself. The thing is, what you have to do is identify in yourself what's valuable about you. It sounds cliche.
No, it's true.
And not everyone is a shiny snowflake. No, some people are in the back. I'm sorry, and that's a great place to be. But if you find your niche and your timbre and your rhythm, and really celebrate yourself in a way you're comfortable with, you will be noticed for your contribution. Don't try to be him, don't try to be her, but find your groove. And people are going to go, I want that in my dressing room. I want that on my stage.
You got it.
When I'm casting a show, I consider it to be like inviting people to an amazing gala party. I want you at my party. I want you at my party. You're amazing. You're fantastic. And I'm going to live with you in the dressing room, knowing that I'm going to love you. Instead of a very temperamental, potentially more talented person, I will sacrifice that person if they don't fit in with the vibe that I'm creating. I don't give a shit. If you can't get along, because relationships are compounded. You're working with these people, you're performing, you're playing, you're eating, and it's compounded. So you need to be a team player and to be generous with yourself in these situations. That's what I would tell the young people. Be generous.
Beautiful. I think that's...
Don't be stingy with your gifts.
Those messages are awesome, Craig. That's a great place for us to leave it. So if I could just repeat what I heard you say, it's that the comparison doesn't serve us well. Knowing what you're great at, bringing that gift, whatever that is, and then having the right humility to be able to play well with others in the on stage and off stage. Those things are critical. And I heard you say earlier that the discipline of putting in the work also important.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. It's been a real pleasure to hang out with you. I know
it's been great.
I know a lot of people who are going to want to watch your video just to know a layer deep on Craig Hempsted.
Right.
We see you in class, and you put on a show, but we don't know you as much as we'd like to know you.
Well, I hope you know me a little bit better now.
I definitely know you a little bit better now.
Cool.
Thank you, my friend. Anything you want to say to wrap? Or are you good?
No, I know this is a forum endeavoring to explore leadership, and I've never really considered myself a leader, but I've been told by others that I am. So I think that if you are invested in leadership, don't focus on that. Just focus again on you, and people will join you if you're doing the right thing.
Beautiful. I absolutely believe leadership. Like, I think that word gets used because it's a businessy kind of word, but No, people lead in all kinds of beautiful ways in their lives, and in so many different formats, right? Dance companies and theater productions and community service and churches and yeah, all kinds of ways. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Joanne.